Hey everybody, it's Eric from epautos.com, your libertarian car guy, and I felt inspired to do a freestyle rant on something that I've been thinking about, and that is the direction of public opinion, and in particular how it is, or how it came to pass, that the safety cult achieved such preeminence and dominance and has managed to saturate our culture with this hystericized, neuroticized obsession with being safe and accepting all kinds of controls, usurpations, abuses, and tyrannies just by saying the magic word, safety. I think it's actually pretty easy to understand, and it goes like this. Back in the 90s, there was a conglomeration of most of the major media organs. And since that time, the major media organs, and by that I mean all of the major mainstream TV networks and the mainstream press, are largely controlled by a very small handful of interlocking corporate interests. There are, I think, about 6 or 7 major corporate interests that have a controlling stake in all of the major media. And because of this, they're able to achieve the perception of unanimity of opinion. They can get a given story out with a given editorial slant, and it will be repeated almost verbatim in every one of the major media organs. And since most people still do read and watch a lot of that type of mainstream media reporting and opinionizing, they, being social animals, tend to conform their own opinions, or at least the ones that they express openly, with the perceived unanimity of the herd. Most people want to be perceived as good people, as good citizens, and this is where we get into this whole virtue signaling thing. And the virtue that's being signaled by these mainstream media entities and organs runs the gamut from all of the politically correct orthodoxies, everything having to do with climate change, everything having to do with safety and ethnic and racial issues, issues of what defines a person's sexual identity rather than their proclivity. All of those things now are essentially being defined and put out there by a handful of these extraordinarily powerful players, which also, by the way, have a near chokehold on the internet as well, since they effectively control, through advertising and through their ability to deplatform and simply suppress contrarian viewpoints, most of the accepted, and I put that in quotes, acceptable opinions which are put out online, again creating this false narrative of unanimity. And I think that part of the reason that the political left is coming unglued is because they're actually having a tough time sort of tamping down the fact that it is just a perception, and that there are still a lot of people out there, and very possibly a majority of people out there, who aren't buying into all of this and who are starting to push back a little bit in one way or another. I count myself among those people. And that's why they're practically chewing the carpet and literally shrieking when it comes to almost any of these issues whenever they discover somebody expressing a heretical or unorthodox point of view. It's imperative from their point of view that everybody signal the same virtues. And if not, then the spell is broken, and they might lose their control over things. So that's my impression. I find that just in my own little world, the car world, I get deluged with emails, calls, texts, and so on from people who tell me that I'm right on when it comes to talking about, for example, all of the over-the-top safety stuff that new cars have, the nannying, the busybodying, and yet, if you watch TV coverage, you watch the ads, and you read the press materials that the car companies purvey to journalists like me, you will find this again, this false narrative that everybody wants to be nannied and automated car driven like a meat sack somewhere, and it's just not true. So the sum of my little rant is that I think that there actually is hope. It's easy to get depressed and think that we're on the verge of a radical transformation of America into some kind of a reflection of the half-dead, soulless socialist countries of Europe that are dying out. But I'm still confident that there is enough of the real America left to restore the country. But we shall see. Anyway, I thought it would be of interest to people who are not in the media and don't really understand how the media operates today to have some of this information. Don't believe me. Go and look it up for yourself and see who controls the handful of major media organs, who controls almost all of the social media companies and so on. We've got this gigantic country, the size of a continent. We've got 340 million people, obviously with great differences of opinion about all kinds of things, and yet they're trying to force everybody into this homogenized one-size-fits-all model, which anybody who's reasonably bright can understand that the only reason for doing that is to more easily control people. And this isn't a matter of conservative versus liberal, or even conservative and liberal versus libertarian. It's a question of our dignity as adult human beings, to not be made into interchangeable widgets and have everything that we're supposed to believe dictated to us. Look at that. The guy actually pulled off to the side. That was really nice of him, just as a segue. That rarely happens anymore. That guy was a considerate driver. Bless him. Wouldn't it be great if more people did that? Anyway, that's the end of my rant for today. Should have some more good stuff up at epautos.com shortly, including something I'm working on about some interesting and alarming signs about the new car market beginning to flatten out, and very possibly we're on the cusp of another big downturn in the car business. Might even be as big as what happened back in '08, so about 10 years ago. There's a massive glut of inventory. It's getting harder and harder to move vehicles for reasons that I'll get into in the article. So anyway, thanks for viewing, and we will catch up with you again soon. Oh, and final note, I'll be on Tom Wood's podcast tomorrow. Of course, the podcast is not live, but it will go up shortly after, and I will have the audio of it up at epautos.com in case you miss it over at Tom's site. So again, thanks for listening, and we'll catch up with you again soon.